Welcome. So today I'm going to be telling a story, and I'm going to be using a lot of clips to hopefully kind of paint that picture for you guys, or at least for the way that I see it. And I'll be talking a little in between it, but for the sake of time, we're just going to jump into clip number 1.
I am your retribution. I am your retribution. We've gotten so much done that nobody thought would be possible, but I do want to thank Congress, and I want to thank all of the great people of Washington, D.C., all of the people that we worked with to put this miracle together. So, have a good life. We will see you soon. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
My next question is the billion-dollar one. I think people want to know whether they support you or not if you're going to run again. And I know last night, stumping for J.D. Vance in Ohio, you teased ahead to a big announcement here at Mar-a-Lago on November 15th. Right. Can you confirm with News Nation that you're running for president?
Boy, that would be a nice confirmation, wouldn't it? There'd be a lot of people that would be very upset about that. But I think you're going to be very happy. I think people are going to be very happy at what I do.
To your predecessor, who is about to launch another campaign. So how do you reassure them, if that is the reason for their questioning, that the former president will not return, or that his political movement, which is still very strong, will not once again take power in the United States?
Well, we just have to demonstrate that he will not take power by, if he does run, making sure he under legitimate efforts of our Constitution, does not become the next president again.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
There's breaking news out of Palm Beach, Florida. Former President Trump says his Mar-a-Lago home there is being raided by the FBI right now.
Thank you for joining us on this historic night in our nation's history. For the first time ever, a former president of the United States has been indicted and will face criminal charges.
Big breaking news coming in late last night. Former President Donald Trump indicted for a second time, this time on federal charges related to his handling of classified documents.
In our top story, just a few hours ago, a federal grand jury indicted former President Donald Trump. It marks the third time the former president has been indicted on criminal charges. It all stems from special counsel Jack Smith's probe into efforts to overturn the 2020 election.
Breaking news on former President Trump. He's been indicted for the fourth time in 5 months.
A Georgia grand jury handing up 41 charges against Trump and nearly 24 of his allies, accusing them of trying to overturn the 2020 election laws.
Breaking news, this is an image that will be in the history books. This is the mugshot of the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, who surrendered himself at Fulton County Jail within the last hour. He was booked, they took his fingerprints, and they took this image.
The optics of this is working to his advantage. Look, people looking at this live picture right now will be either filled with rage or they will be thrilled. And that's the problem, is that, you know, you have James now being shown in the background, you've got Trump in the foreground, and it fulfills the narrative on both sides.
But somehow it's going to work out. You know, somehow, can't tell you how, but somehow it's going to work out. Now, what it is doing, and I believe the reason we're doing so well in the polls is because the people see it. They see it as a persecution of a political candidate They see it as a continuation of the greatest witch hunt of all time. That's what it is.
We begin tonight with breaking news from Colorado, where the state Supreme Court has just disqualified former President Donald Trump from Colorado's 2024 primary election ballot.
And we're just getting started.
Out of New York City, the judgment in Donald Trump's civil fraud trial has been signed by Judge Arthur Engoron and officially entered. The total judgment for the former president now stands at not $354 million, but $454 million.
Trump has also been barred from business in New York for 3 years. His son's barred for 2 years.
We've got a verdict. Ari Melber.
We are looking at count 1, guilty. Count 2, guilty. Count 3, guilty. Count 4, guilty. Count 5, guilty. That is Donald J. Trump, defendant in New York versus Donald Trump, found guilty on all 34 felony counts. That is the verdict here in this case.
This is an irreducible verdict. He can appeal. I'm sure he will appeal. But this is everything that the prosecution asked for.
That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Former president walk onto the screen, and the producer in my ear could talk to me in real time as we determine the best way to handle this.
So 8, we're still working to perfect the timeline based on the radio comms and all that. It wasn't until at 6:11:03 seconds, the officer saw him and called out his arm. That was the first sighting where he had the rifle on the roof, and then and that was relayed to the Secret Service Command Center at that point. My understanding is no, Secret Service, it was not relayed to them. It's a narrower time frame, though. It's probably about maybe up to half a minute between the time he's seen with the rifle and when the shots are fired.
But there's still time. At that point, if there were an open channel of communication in which they were able to tell him, he's got a gun, take him out. You could still take President Trump off the stage. You could have him duck. You could have the shooter neutralized. Do you not have a channel of communication by which they can say, gun, take him out?
So again, Senator, that information stayed in state and local channels and did not make it over to Secret Service.
Did they not consider that relevant?
Sorry. The investigation underway after the second assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. He was golfing at the Trump International Golf Course in West Palm Beach yesterday when a gunman was spotted. Trump was not harmed and was quickly removed from the golf course. The whole incident took place between the 5th, 6th, and 7th holes, the area close to the road and buffered by shrubs. This is the second assassination attempt after one in Pennsylvania in July.
2 men in the city are in federal custody in what the FBI is calling a murder for hire plot to assassinate President-elect Donald Trump.
And federal prosecutors say this plan was backed by the Iranian government. Ali Bauman here now with all the details.
A federal complaint unsealed Friday alleges Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps tasked a man named Farhad Shakari with surveilling and ultimately assassinating multiple American figures, including former President Donald Trump.
2 things. For me, there's no way that I could walk away from that and not see a political persecution. Like, y'all left this man completely alone for 2 years. And as soon as he announces the floodgates of hell open up, I don't know how you walk away from that and not see that. So for me, like when I hear people give the, convicted felon and they go through the list, that's all I see. I just see the collage and the history of them constantly going after him. And this is after he said he was going to jump back into the race for a second time. But I watched them do this for 4 years while he was in office. So, I'm just like, okay, all right. But the second thing that I take away from it is they are not behaving like this because of some character flaw that they believe him to have. They are not behaving like this because they adamantly believe that he is a threat to democracy, or because they believe he's a racist, or because of anything that happened on January 6th. And so for my next clip, I'm going to jump into why I believe that they are behaving like this.
Putin said this in an interview. They said, "What do you think of Trump?" And he said, "I've been through 3 United States presidents." You can Google this yourself, gentlemen. He said, "I've been through 3 US presidents, and they all have amazing ideas. But the ideas don't get implemented because people don't understand how strong the bureaucracy of America is. When the people with the dark suits arrive and explain to him how things are really done, his ideas will not come to fruition." Putin said himself, the president has people above him telling him what to do. Putin knows it. Everyone knows it, right? Trump's the first guy who said, "No, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this." And they just attacked him with their propaganda machine. A non-stop onslaught of attack.
We are going to make this decision now. Donald Trump will be the 45th President of the United States.
Does it ever seem to you that President Trump has done more than any president in modern history?
In the 10 years I've been involved in politics, I've never seen an administration hit the ground running like this.
I could spend the rest of the hour laying out the accomplishments under the Trump presidency, despite everything thrown at him.
The market just had its 12th straight record close.
Taking action to save as many kids as they can.
We were energy independent under the Trump administration.
More Americans reported being employed than ever.
Helping those who have served our country in the military to get access to mental health care.
The Great American Outdoors Act is the largest single piece of legislation to support our national parks and public lands.
Created more than 7 million good-paying jobs.
Websites can be held liable in court for having sex trafficking content.
The Abraham Accords, which for any other president would have been multiple peace prizes.
America did not enter into a foreign war.
The employment rate in the U.S. fell to 3.5%.
The First Step Act eases federal sentencing for nonviolent offenders.
Increased funding for historically black colleges and universities.
Allows terminally ill patients easier access to experimental drugs.
Kept the inflation rate low.
Honored with the Bipartisan Justice Award.
Had a massive MS-13 gang problem.
3.9% is the unemployment rate.
Requiring airports to provide lactation rooms for breastfeeding mothers.
Middle class family income increased nearly $6,000.
A dramatic escalation in his crackdown on illegal immigration.
An advocate for educational choice.
Tariffs on Mexico and Canada.
An act preventing animal cruelty and torture.
Taking out Baghdadi, the head of ISIS, Soleimani, the Iranian general.
Save Our Seas Act commitment to environmental issues.
We're saying Merry Christmas again.
Community development in low-income urban and rural communities.
Help us to remember the importance of fighting off tyranny.
Pulling out of UNESCO, the World Health Organization, the Paris Climate Accords, reassessing NATO and the United Nations.
Stood up for Christianity and the Constitution more than any president in American modern history.
We are stopping the attacks on Judeo-Christian values.
We stand with the Venezuelan people in their noble quest for freedom, and we condemn the brutality of the Maduro regime, whose socialist policies have turned that nation from being the wealthiest in South America into a state of abject poverty and despair. Here in the United States, we are alarmed by the new calls to adopt socialism in our country. America was founded on liberty and independence, and not government coercion, domination, and control. We are born free, and we will stay free. Tonight, we renew our resolve that America will never be a socialist country.
In my opinion, he was pulling America back off the ledge, and he was restoring putting in policies, and we were coming back strong. And that's really hard for a group of people that have been actively selling us to the highest bidder. All of these politicians are prostitutes. So it's hard for them. With all of the opposition that they gave this man while he was in office, he was still doing win after win after win for America and the American people. And they could not stand that, nor could they continue to have it. And he was a disruptor in all of their corruption, and then declaring on top of all of that, that America will never be a communist country. That was just like a dagger in the heart. So what does that mean for us as the American people? And with that, I'll go into my next clip.
This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis, to promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth, to destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market competition, and to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C., with benevolent dictators like Walter Mondale, who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfillable or not. He will go to Moscow to kiss the bottoms of new generation of Soviet assassins, never mind. He will create false illusions that the situation is under control. Situation is not under control. Situation is disgustingly out of control. Most of the American politicians, media, and educational system trains another generation of people who think they are living at a peacetime. False. The United States is in a state of war, undeclared total war against the basic principles and the foundations of this system. And the initiator of this war is not Comrade Andropov, of course. It's the system. However ridiculous it may sound, the world communist system or the world communist conspiracy, whether I scare some people or not, I don't give a hoot. If you are not scared by now, nothing can scare you. But you don't have to be paranoid about it. What actually happens now, that unlike myself, you have literally several years to live on unless the United States wake up. The time bomb is ticking. With every second, the disaster is coming closer and closer. Unlike myself, you will have nowhere to defect to, unless you want to live in Antarctica with penguins. This is it. This is the last country of freedom and possibility.
Okay.
So to me, this means that we have been at war for a very long time. It was undetected, but nonetheless, it was there. And it has been a war, not of bodies, but of the mind. And even in scripture, it tells us that we do not war with flesh and blood. Okay? That our battlefield is in the mind. And that is exactly where our enemy has taken it. We are going to infiltrate their line of thinking and then tear them down from within. And that's what you see all around us. Now, before I get into my last clip, I want you to understand that this next step in taking our country back is not just on the shoulder of one man. It is going to require all of us. So with that, roll film.
What are the consequences for the culture war in the wake of a Trump victory? Peter, over to you.
When a wild dog is captured or cornered, it becomes even more ferocious. I have a sobering message for the people here. If you think a Trump victory is going to make the enemies of civilization, the enemies of cognitive liberty, the enemies of civility itself, any kind of basic freedom, to quote the famous poem, go quietly into this good night, I have a sobering message for you. You're a fool. You're grossly mistaken. That will not happen. I predict that we will see a ferociousness and a tenacity and a pathological vengeance upon the people and the cronies that we have thrown out of office. The people have basically terrorized the United States and the rest of the world for, at the very minimum, of 12 years. So let's take a look at that landscape. What does it look like? And who holds the levers of power? Here's what we're fighting right now. I prefer to think about it in terms of cognitive liberty. The people who want to tell you what to think and what to believe were just thrown out of office. And don't you for a single second think that these people are going to be happy about this and say, well, you know, this is really unfortunate. This is really unfortunate we lost. These people will come back with a ferocity and a tenacity that I do not think that we have seen in a long, long time. So I leave you with this message. Now is not the time to rest on your laurels. Now is the time to work. Now is the time, right now, when we have momentum, using institutions like the Danube Institute, is the time to fight back and put that final nail in the coffin of the divisive madness which has thrown society off of a cliff in the last 12 years. Thank you.
This election is much bigger than just Trump. And it was absolutely necessary that we had the House and the Senate in order to get the plan moving. Because I remember when he got in the first time, how pretty much the Democrats and the Republican, the uniparty, rejected him. And I saw how they just threw obstacle after obstacle after obstacle at it, just in his way. And yet he still got a lot done. But we are going to absolutely need the House and the Senate. And this is why we have to be involved, because they are going to revolt in every way, shape, and form. They are going to try to obstruct and just be in the way as much as possible. They are going to be agitators, and they are already, just winding up to do that. So it's going to take us getting involved. We have to each one teach one as Americans to get involved in the process of government, because our government includes the people. At the very top, it says, we the people. And you can guarantee that even if they cannot, because they haven't called all of the races for the House yet, but you can guarantee that they are going to be on the ground doing everything that they can to get the House and the Senate back, because obviously if they had the opportunity, they would impeach him again. It would be investigation after investigation, and it just would never end. These people are not out to serve the American people, but to destroy and sell off our country. So yeah, each one teach one. And I think that this is the most beautiful part about just the ministry that we have as God's people, because it's now the salvation of the soul. We get to go in and speak to people and pull them out of that darkness that they're in by the grace and the glory of God, and really come together as a people. So I'm really excited for the days ahead. Even though, the election is done, I think that the work is just beginning, because we are right now in the middle of a war. We are at war. We've been at war. We now see it. And it's time for us to begin to take our place, especially as the body of Christ. So, yeah, I'm going to leave that there. We'll definitely continue to talk more about these things in sections, but I appreciate you guys watching, and yeah, Bride of Christ, arise.
Spartans! What is your profession?
You see, old friend, I brought more soldiers than you did.